Hello everyone, welcome to our development update for January. We hope that you've had a wonderful break. We definitely have. We're revived. We apparently are blinded by the sun.
The new year is so bright.
Vampires or something.
What are you talking about? We're not vampires.
No.
Vampires, yeah.
We go out in the sun all the time. It's California.
Exactly.
We're nerds. We don't go out in the sun. That's lies. But we hope that everything's being wonderful with you all. I know we have been excited. 2020 is going to be an amazing year for us. We have so much planned and so many things that have happened just within the last like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been a whirlwind, but in a good way. So first and foremost, I kind of wanted to introduce ourselves, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing today, and then we'll get into it all because that's what you guys want to see, right? So first and foremost, introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about who you are.
I am Stephen Sharif, creative director on the project Ashes of Creation. I enjoy long walks on the beach. No,
I mean, that's a nice long walks on the beach.
Actually, I really don't go to the beach ever. To be
really?
fair, yeah, I don't really like the beach.
Even with the sandals.
That's true.
Like you're always dressed for the beach.
I really actually do hate the sun. You know, I know we were saying we weren't vampires, but I actually can't stand the sun. I would go to the beach if it were a cloudy, like hazy day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like garlic? No, I'm just kidding. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for anyone who's just tuning in and is new to our community.
I am Jeffrey Bard, lead game designer. I do like going to the beach.
Which beach do you go to?
All of them. Usually dog beaches. We like to bring our dogs to the beach.
There's a dog beach right up on Del Mar off.
Yeah, we go there all the time. You can't have them off leash during the summer.
I know.
Yeah.
But I saw some dog
winter
fights
we
there
do
one
it.
time. It was actually really
that's
scary.
terrifying.
That's why they put them on the leashes.
Yeah.
And I am Margaret Crone. I'm your community marketing lead, so I kind of run community marketing stuff. It's fun. We've been having a lot of fun with social media and doing some cool things, and we have some more stuff planned in the future. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to go over the student updates. Stephen's going to kind of walk us through that and talk a little bit about the Creative Director's Letter. I think this is the first live stream since then, so we'd like to kind of like just talk a little bit about it. And then we will do a design update. We actually have a new person who's joining us, which will be fun. And it'll show, well,
New person for design.
Yeah.
for
I'm
design.
not there yet.
Okay,
I'm not
got
there
it.
yet,
Oh,
man.
sorry.
I'm still going through the things.
Oh.
And then, and that's going to kind of take us down kind of a UI art path, which is a little bit different than some of the other designs that we've talked about. And then we're going to go into character art, which we actually have another person who's joining us, one of our senior animators, a new face that you haven't seen on the live stream yet, who will be going through all of the wonderful things they've been working on as well, and their team has been. And then, of course, Bacon will be joining us back from the environment team, talking about all the cool things that environment has been doing. Unfortunately, a lot of our engineers are sick who are normally on our cast, and the rest of them refuse to be on the live stream. So I don't want to force them to. Although Steven, I guess, could, but I wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do
I
that.
prefer them coding.
Yeah, fair enough. I prefer them coding too. But also, we try not to put people on if they don't want to. I know there's been a lot of faces that you all want to see, but if they're not comfortable being on camera, we don't want to make them. So we won't have an engineering update today, but next time. Hopefully. So quick updates. We obviously had a creative director's letter. Go check it out. It's up on our page, ashesofcreation.com/news. Definitely go check that out. And then, of course, we have the Doomwing Falcon. We had the video go out. We had a little lore blurb that went out.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's really pretty.
I
love
like seeing that little dude.
Yeah. I think, though...
He fits so perfectly on his shoulder.
I know, he does. And I think I can imagine, like, that type of creature having the two wings, just how, like, agile they would be in the air. So I'd really love to see some animations to reflect kind of that agile nature of the creature, and I think it's pretty cool when they were doing like a little jump at the end.
Yeah, lots
like
of cool
the little
places
tricks.
we can
Yeah. Jinsey was having fun with that, and I know she's still up until the last moment of the video, she's like, "Can I swap that animation? Can I swap this?" Because she's like, everyone's a perfectionist. They're just trying to like fix the little tiny things, but obviously it's all a work in progress, so there's still more to come. And I know there was comments regarding like the character model. We are going to have new character models for a lot of our races and stuff like that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut the gun there, but
You can
Cut the gun?
well, jump the gun.
Okay.
jump the gun.
Cut the rope. It's a mixture of the two.
Did you want to say add something else?
No, I was just going to say, I think some of the exciting stuff, and that we mentioned even in the creative director's letter with regards to March that's coming up, is the opportunity to see some new races, which are gonna be
We're gonna make kind of a big deal about those. So stay tuned.
Yes.
We'll show like the creation process of them, a lot of the behind the scenes, the design that went into the thought process that went into them, and a little bit of story and lore. So stay tuned. But we won't give it away, all of it away, because obviously
Just a little bit.
Just a little. And then some things that we have coming up in February that we definitely want you to get in part of, so stay tuned for them, is the new dev discussion. We've been loving all of your guys' feedback on that. I know the dev team, we've had internal discussions and arguments based on your guys' arguments.
Yeah, no, it's really good stuff.
So it's been really cool, and those are all questions that come from design, because those are things that they're trying to tackle. So all of your feedback really is super
Actually,
helpful.
funny point on that. I think the last question we had talked about or posed to the community was with regards to content scaling. And that question actually came from a little bit of a discussion with two sides on the design team.
Yeah.
So we kind of like, hey, let's get community involved and have them pose this to the players and get their feedback on that.
I think we actually swapped that one for a different one because we were trying to get it in there earlier because they had requested it.
Absolutely.
And then we have a really fun Valentine's Day thing happening, so stay tuned for that. Our graphics designer Mike has been working his booty off, making some really cute assets. So stay tuned for those. And then we have our monthly cosmetics swap over coming up. So all fun things. So let's get right into it. Steven, give us the update. Talk about all the things.
Yeah, talk about
the creative
all the
director's
amazing
letter.
things. Oh, creative director's letter, gosh.
This is the first time they're
Does it feel like a
so
year ago?
long ago? I was going to say, it's like, what did that even
December
say?
30th or something. December 31st.
It's been a long month.
What did I say in that creative director's letter? I can't remember now. I feel like it's been at least 6 months.
That's what it feels like.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I remember a little bit. We put a little bit of a treat in the creative director's letter for those of you who probably, most of you have seen the world map that we revealed of Vera, which is, pretty fun thing for us to reveal. Obviously, you guys are going to be able to see parts of that, come March with with our Alpha 1 kind of preview that we're going to be doing at GDC, and that'll be interesting. But I've been really enjoying kind of watching a lot of the theory crafting that's come of the reveal for that world map.
Yeah, now they're like,
You know,
is the world flat?
it's-
Is it circular?
We've actually had discussions about that.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's great to see all the theory crafting. It's really been fun to actually see a lot of you guys, kind of say, hey, I want to put my homestead, my freehold down there. I want to go on this island. How are the trade routes going to work between
Steven
these?
also forgot to remove some UI.
Oh, I know. I totally forgot to have that removed. But it was
So there's been
it's
theory
okay.
crafting around that too.
Yeah, that was good too. I like to see, kind of your guys' take on what those starting areas are assigned to which races and stuff like that. And I will say, a few of you have gotten them right. I mean, there's only so many variables possible, but a few of you guys have gotten those correct.
Now they're going to be like, they're going to take their little wire. Which one of us is right?
I know. But otherwise, we're still preparing for our studio move, which should be coming very, 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 very shortly. Also, we've have some new additions to the team. One that started this week. We have another one starting next week.
We've updated our website, so if you go check it out, I know their backgrounds are different than the rest of ours. We're actually going to do a full photo shoot for everybody in the studio, especially once we move to the new studio. It's going to be a nice gray, light gray backdrop, and everyone's going to have the same lighting. It will be fantastic. These are the things I dream about.
Yes. So we had some new faces started this week and next week, and a few more starting even a few weeks after that as well. We did post, and Margaret and Sarah have been great about helping with this, is posting some of the job opportunities here at Intrepid and the positions that we have open. You can check out the intrepidstudios.com if you know any developers in the industry that you are fans of and you want to say, hey, take a look at this project, wink wink, nudge nudge, you're welcome to do so. We'd appreciate that.
Actually, Danielle's been really helpful with that. We've been utilizing some of our CS peeps doing other things tasks, because obviously we don't have as many tickets right now, which is nice to know that we don't have a lot of tickets. The ticket process has been really fast, so if you ever do put a CS ticket in, hopefully you're getting responses pretty quickly. She's been kind of helping out with some of the social media stuff, I should say.
Yeah, so things are looking up and up. We're having a good time.
We're having a good time.
Good,
We've got lots
busy first year.
Oh, very, very busy.
Right? It's real different.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been busy all.
Yeah.
I feel like I actually have been here for a year now, because January 7th was my anniversary, my work anniversary, and Toast has been here for a year now too.
It's only been a year?
And it feels like it's been way longer.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes I blink and I'm like, it's been a year? What just happened?
Whirlwind.
It's like whenever you work in a atmosphere where you have kind of more startup feel, there's a lot going on all the time, which is nice because you get to wear lots of different hats, but also things move really fast, so you blink and you're like, what happened?
Where am I?
What's my name?
It's almost like playing Sims. I just lose myself. So I think that's kind of all. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's the gist of it. Now I will take my sunglasses off, and so that I can see the content we're going to be showing. So I'll put my actual glasses on.
So if we can depart
All
with our
right.
lovely Jeff. He will
Jeff, are you leaving?
He will return with
I
his
get
wisdom and
I get the
knowledge.
points.
It was so short.
Going away.
know.
No,
Bye, guys.
Bye, Jeff.
And we'll be bringing on Ryan. Ryan is one of our newer team members. We have talked about him a bit on a previous stream as well. I know you've been talked about.
Welcome, Ryan. How you doing, buddy?
Excited to be here.
So first of all, tell people who you are and what you do on our team. 'Cause
Sure.
Obviously, you're new here.
Yeah. So I am the UI artist and designer, I guess.
Very important role, by the way.
Turns out.
As all of you guys know.
We were all discussing, me and him were discussing this because he's like, well, I applied for a UI design position, but I am a UI artist, so it's like an interesting position because you do an element of art and an element of design.
And I've worn those hats many times. Oh, I'm not in frame. I apologize.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, well, Ryan's a little bit of a unicorn because you're actually unbelievably talented in both of those areas, both from an understanding and... Well, hey, we bring on the best at Intrepid, and Ryan is the best. But, he has the talent both on the art side and on the design side, which is great.
Spent 12 years at Blizzard doing everything from... art to design to even some technical art stuff.
Yeah.
I coded a little bit on the side.
Hey!
It was fun. So,
What projects did you work on at Blizzard, by the way?
Good God. I worked on BattleNet for about 8 years, and then I went over to Diablo for 4 years. I did everything from the PC version to the console version to Diablo 4. So, just kidding. Now that I can say Diablo 4, I worked on Diablo 4, so it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
And I guess talking about your history and your background in UI design, what was kind of like your favorite thing in project to work on?
I would have to say I worked pretty passionately and closely on the BlizzCon demo reveal, where,
okay.
the fireplace and everything. What I do like here is I make gray box stuff, and I make it like shadows and stuff to make sure so people get the idea of what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of the first things I drew, was like, it's got to be around a campfire. It's got to be the classic characters, and it's got to just sell it.
Yeah.
It really worked. So
That's awesome.
And that's actually one of the great things about Ryan's kind of procedure when theory crafting out a lot of the UI design for the MMORPG. You're able to very quickly iterate on these gray box versions of these different types of capabilities we can demonstrate in the UI.
yeah.
And obviously designing for, some of those other games and projects that you worked on, and now designing for Apocalypse and Ashes of Creation and looking at the differences in those. Like, what is your approach when you're looking at a project like that?
I'm a big fan of form following function. Like, if it's designed well, it's gonna play well. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fully interactive. That's my bones. It's like I have to make sure everything is good before I go on to the art portion of things.
Oh yeah.
Because everything, you can make anything look pretty, but if it doesn't work, that just breaks everything.
Yeah, so you actually have a bunch of assets for us to kind of talk about the process. We kind of wanted to guide you guys through like the development process and how creating UI works. So this doesn't necessarily mean that these are the final UI elements. This
They
is
are
just kind of
definitely
walking
not.
you through the process
Right,
of
and
it.
these are
So
from a
the
few
first-
months ago, right?
So
Yeah.
So the first part here is kind of talking about bringing a UI asset from start to finish. And so we have a few assets kind of describing this process. And I don't know if you want to kind of walk us through.
Sure. So I was tasked with trying to come up with how to represent siege engines and their ammo, how much they had left, a health meter, all kinds of different things. And so I just started iterating. I threw a bunch of gray box assets out there just to kind of get my thoughts down and figure out how I wanted it to go. And I came up with the interact button, which was the little E, because that's how you'd get into it. And then it would have like this fan of bullets or some wooden stakes or whatever the projectile was. And that would represent your ammo meter, and it would tick down as you fired it. Then you would also have the health bar around it. And so it kind of created this interesting little dynamic where the ammo was going one way and the health was going the other way. So it clearly, communicated what was going on. And you could see it. I also added some color in there, so you would represent, when the siege engine was at 50% and when it was at almost dead. So.
And the core principle here in kind of representing all of that information in one centralized location,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's
That was
really
important.
that's a very important aspect of
That
design,
instant read
right?
is very important.
Absolutely, and that's one of the great things that resonated me. Even when you were interviewing, right, is like that philosophy of keeping these things centralized and easily communicative to the player.
Yeah.
That's a very important aspect, especially for an MMORPG, because there's so many systems that are
Yep.
interacting
Yep.
with each other, and it just becomes so easy to get lost in UI.
Because it's easy to say, we'll fix it with UI and just staple stuff on there,
Right.
but it just suddenly, gets very muddy very fast.
Exactly. So that's something that really spoke to me about, your capabilities as a designer from a UI perspective is to understand that aspect of it is so important, because a lot of people really don't.
Yeah.
And being able to like explain a lot in a very small space, I think, is awesome. Keeping it very simplistic. I mean, we look at a lot of UI in MMOs, and we're like, "What is happening?" As like a first-time person, if you're coming into it,
Yeah.
it can be a little overwhelming. I mean, obviously, there's going to be elements that are going to be a little bit much because it is an MMO.
Yeah.
There are a lot of systems. There are a lot of things happening all at the same time, especially when it comes to like raiding
Yeah.
and healing and things of that sort. So it's going to be an interesting tackle for all of you too.
It's true, yeah. And, my thought is, I want to play our game. I want to play the frames.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, some people like that. I think we even had some people asking specifically about like health bars and like
Oh, yeah.
as a healer, some people like playing that health bar game. So it's going to be a fine balance when it comes to like the hybrid combat.
And
and the
I
action
think
combat.
that even even in our discussions, about the understanding of how the UI for the MMORPG is going to work, right, is kind of a Russian doll theory in the sense that, initially at the face value, it's, this one piece, but you can continually open up and you have the prerogative as a player how much you want visible to you, right? But essentially it's going to be still a streamlined experience where information is easily communicated.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of modular UI.
Yes.
By that,
Exactly.
do you mean like the player themselves will be able to customize a lot?
Absolutely, yes. That's it.
I want to give the player the
That's what I
tools
want.
to play the
I wanna be
game
able to move it
as
where I
best as
want.
possible, but I also want them to be able to make it, how they want it to. So.
And it's funny because, MMO players are very, very different across the spectrum of, what they want represented to them from an information standpoint. Some of them want to be completely immersed in the world around them, and
True,
others
you're
want to
right,
just
yeah.
have a tiny little window where they see the game and everything else is information.
That's true.
So
Which is fine. I mean, if that's how they want to play it,
right.
I'll let you play it that way.
And our designs are meant to be modular,
Yes.
like you were saying, so that players have that prerogative. Yeah.
Which is really nice. And I think, especially from a streamer's perspective, like I stream a lot, so for me, it's like being able to move those elements in places where they don't cover my camera or that kind of thing, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we're going to go into talking about how you prototype things and you kind of show off different layouts and you explain how these work and you kind of show them to Steven and you guys walk through the process of
Sure.
figuring out which one you want to finalize. So we'll showcase these on the screen and if you can walk us through what
Yeah, so for this one I was working on how to represent capture points in Siege because we want to do this thing where we put the points on the compass itself so you could see them being captured in real time and how to communicate that. And obviously the easiest way of doing it is the tried and true red and blue. We came up with red and blue icons and then have them sort of burn away or depending on what the current state of that point is. So
Right, some transition effect.
Yeah, that was very important. And I wanted it to sort of be visceral. So my mock-up it's still gray box, so it's not exactly finished. But I kind of pinged some of the FX guys, and they were excited about burning banners. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, it was fun. So we got I came up with a mock-up where it showed the banner sort of burning away as it was being captured, and then be unfurled. That it would be your new banner. So hopefully that gets in.
Right, and there you have a mixed representation, both of the static location that's
Yes.
present with the banner itself, as well as what is actively ongoing through the effect that's occurring on that static icon, right? So, those are examples of transmitting kind of up-to-date information with activity, as well as a staple location of these effects.
Yeah, and now you have a couple different options, so let's go through those options and
Oh yeah,
walk through
so
those.
with this one, it was working that idea that this was the compass in action, and that if we wanted to have all the objectives on the compass, that's fine. But what if it's off screen? How would it be represented in the world? We could have it where was the point being arrows being shown you which way to turn your camera, so that if it was like a 180-degree arc. Anything behind on the side of you or behind you would be in the wings of your UI.
And what you guys are seeing here, by the way, are very early iterations of
So
the UI
early.
from a few months ago. Some of our PI members have had an opportunity to kind of see these in action, even in our PI test that we
think
had with Castle Siege.
We actually had it red and purple.
Yeah.
Was it red and purple?
I think it was red and purple.
And don't freak out about the bottom bar. That was just me goofing around and trying to come up with a way of condensing everything into that center portion.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
the way it's going to look.
Yeah.
These are just to give you guys an idea of how iteration occurs with these, different UI mock-ups. Very cool. Love it.
And I think you have one more. Yeah.
Is this the big one?
This is the.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
no, I thought there was one more version of the capture point thing, but that's okay. We can talk about this.
the overhead icon stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we still. Yeah, there's.
Oh yeah, I got that. I can come back.
We
to
just
that.
skipped two things. It's fine. Let's talk about this and let's go forward.
Doing it
So
live.
let's talk about some of the MO stuff that you've been working on and how like the in progress.
So I've been
stuff.
trying to come up with a way of making it our game, so it's not like just carbon copying every MMO that's already out there. So I was thinking about how to represent the character sheet and make your character look just as cool as possible. And what came to mind was having the camera just flip around, and the character sheet would fly in, so you could see your character live in real time, and see yourself adding armor on and. So you'd be, opening up your inventory and just basically drag and dropping or right-clicking or however we're going to do it, still to be determined.
Now, to give you guys context, also here what you're seeing is actually a character and zone from the Alpha 0 client. Some of you guys may be familiar with it from some of the footage we showed early on, a couple years ago. But that's what's being used here to mock up the inventory screen.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean necessarily that this is how it's going to play out, that you're going to stop and you're going to have to like turn the UI, but you're just kind of
Right.
showing off like
what it could be.
Yeah.
Right. These are just different iterations. You know, obviously, it's very cool to see kind of, you know, the different directions that are possible with, you know, these designs for UI. And then you guys will get to see kind of the final quality in March. Well, not final, but still iterative. But you'll get to see the progression of the UI come March. Yeah.
Everyone's probably screenshotting me like, are these all the slots?
What are these,
Like,
all these things?
There's the wires happening in.
And that'll probably end up changing completely by the time we get to March.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's not going to be great.
You're all still designing like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
itemization process and finalizing.
Trying to figure out how many slots we have, all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to backtrack a little bit, and we're going to talk about establishing the behavior of individual elements and how that works. And you had this here to kind
Yes.
of depict that. So I don't know if you want to walk us through.
Sure.
that.
So during Siege, there was a moment where there was just so many icons on the screen that it kind of got overwhelming because we had them super large.
Yeah.
And I wanted to sort of rein it in a bit, and I decided to try something that many other games have tried, and that was using an icon to represent the class, and then having their instant read of their health bar on there and where they are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some behavior like if this player is far enough away that I can't see them, it'll disappear.
Yeah.
Or if it's an enemy and it's near me and I can see him, I will be able to see his icon. So different behaviors like that. And then there's a bunch of stuff in there. The text is a little too small to read, but
Oh, someone's screenshotting it already.
Oh,
There's
yeah, sure.
zoom
For
in,
sure. Yeah.
hoping I didn't leave any
It's okay.
bad words in there.
No, it's okay.
Giving bad words to
No,
Jeff.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I guess kind of this kind of walks us through the process and like what you have going on, and obviously we're gonna end on the inventory stuff because it's kind of like what you're trying to really tackle now.
Yeah.
Is what's that process when you get a piece of loot and how that works and where you're putting it and how it's gonna look on your character.
Yeah, so it would be basically you pick it up off the ground, go into your inventory. If we go with the direction where I have the fly out in there, the inventory screen would pop up in the middle when you hit the inventory button. You'd be able to just have it right over over top of your character, and you can toggle it so it disappears or comes back up, or however we're going to do it. You would be able to drag and drop that right onto your inventory slot, and lo and behold, your character would suddenly look a lot cooler because he'd have a new item on or something.
Yeah.
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 So we're working on the process. How's it been?
It's been awesome.
Enjoying it?
I'm happy to be here.
I know that like this is a kind of different change for you too because your history you've
Oh
been
yeah,
working on like
going
much
from a
bigger
giant
big teams
company to
like,
a very intimate company.
Yeah.
It's been interesting.
What has been your favorite part about working in Intrepid?
Oh, just meeting all the new people and stuff, and just having a blast making a game that's going to be cool. So
Sweet. Awesome.
Very cool.
Well, I think if there's nothing else you want to share with us today, I'm sure we'll have you on in the future as there's going to
Looking forward to
be
it.
plenty of other UI elements and things of that sort that we're going to want to walk through people through and kind of talk about. I know one of the things that players are really curious about is how the artisan classes are going to work because that's usually a very UI heavy element of
The
a
professions,
system,
yeah.
So, thank you very much.
Very cool.
And
Thank you, Ryan.
we're gonna switch over to another new folk here. We've got Dave who will be joining us.
So many new faces.
Yeah. How you doing, Dave?
Welcome,
I'm great.
Get on in.
Dave.
So
Get
glad
on
to
in
be here.
Yay! Scoot, scoot, scoot.
First and foremost, tell the community who you are and what you do at our studio.
Hi, I'm Dave Olkers. I'm been at Intrepid since September.
Oh my
September
God.
9th was my
Yeah.
first day.
Wow.
4 months now.
Hey!
And I'm a senior animator. Been animating in games since 2000.
An extraordinary animator, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Everything I've seen
Thank
come
you.
out of Dave is absolutely extraordinary, and you guys will think the same too.
He's so happy. Can you tell
Can't get
us a
enough
little bit about
compliments.
that history, like what games you've worked on and like what projects
Yeah,
you've done?
I got my start down here in San Diego
Mm-hmm.
at Sony Computer Entertainment America,
Oh my god.
and worked on the Mark of Kree, which is a very stylized fighting game, single player. You're a big giant Samoan looking dude going around and trying to solve this magical dilemma that he's in.
Yeah.
And that game was absolutely just totally fun. I mean, my background is 2D animation,
Okay.
hand-drawn stuff. And
That's old school
Yeah,
stuff.
totally old school. And the whole animation team on that project was all 2D animators.
Oh.
So it
I mean,
was
back in the day, that we did a lot of even game design animations were done by drawn. It was crazy.
Yeah. But this was all 3D. So it was, imagine a bunch of people that only know how to do pencil and paper learning the computer together.
Yeah.
So it was it was
cute.
awesome. It was a really fun time. And then a group of us split from Sony to start our own company. And
How was that?
That was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster like you wouldn't believe. I mean, because
Steven's like, wait,
knows all
Steven's
those
like,
I was like, what? Roller coasters.
I've done this before. I've made my own.
yeah. And we did a couple of games there, and then the third and final game that I was on got canceled, and unfortunately closed the doors to that place.
It's okay.
And then went over to Tryon Studios, which was right down the road from here.
Yeah, when they
And-
had their San Diego studio.
Yeah, and worked on Defiance, which is a action MMO RPG.
And they had the TV series that was with it too, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that was a fun time trying to figure that whole thing out and
I bet.
how to get the content
That was
quick enough.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but that was really fun. And after that, I went to Amazon Game Studios and worked on countless games that one of them actually made it out to market. The other ones, not so much. But, hey,
But it was probably a really interesting experience being able to.
it was
change and
fantastic.
move,
I would
yeah.
not change a thing.
Yeah.
I've learned so much at every place that I've been at. The wins, the fails, the everything. It's just been such a great ride.
Yeah.
And then now I'm here, and this place, in one word to sum up this studio, is family.
Oh, I love
That
that.
is
You
true,
just
yeah.
come into work and everyone is so close.
I
we
love
have
that.
we have the food and
Oh yeah, the potlucks
the
that I do.
potlucks. Yeah, it's just amazing, and everyone
We've
contributes,
been
and
doing
they're all
monthly
excited
potlucks,
to do it.
and then I try to like have a theme. Some months we're not gonna have a theme, but like we've been
Yeah.
trying to, and it's getting crazy. Everyone at the studio, actually, we should just open up a restaurant. They have some amazing
You know,
cooks.
that was a serious thought in one of the studio moves we were going to do, was putting a restaurant in the middle of the studio. I was like, we should just get a chef and have
Oh my
like a
God.
little service where they want to order something. That would be
some
great.
studios
would be
have that.
awesome.
I know.
So, yeah.
That little vacuum tube that brings
I
it to your desk.
know.
Yes, just a shot of IV for caffeine.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, like, so let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing here at Intrepid and the projects that you've been working on.
Yeah. So when I first got here, I think you guys were finishing up the APOC.
Yeah.
So I came on the very tail end of it, and I got to work on the dude swinging the two-handed axe.
Yeah.
So that whole combo, I didn't do the animation, but I helped to clean it up and go back to idle and do all that kind of thing, which was great because it got my feet into not just the animation, because I normally use Maya, but I got to learn Motion Builder.
Yeah.
And then I also got to learn Unreal Engine. So I started getting into the blueprints, and that was just a fantastic learning
It's a lot,
experience. Yeah. And
It is
wasn't
kind of really neat because it's very visual, which
Yes.
is a different experience
my God,
from what
yes.
I'm used to, which is
Yeah.
very much like I type a bunch of words
Oh,
and hope that I didn't put
completely.
a comma in the wrong spot.
Exactly. Oh, my semicolon, what is it?
Yeah.
And so after that went out, and there's lots of play tests, so yeah, you get to play games at work.
Yeah.
And I went on to the Scale Runner, which I think we'll be showing
we will
videos
be.
Oh,
of
are we
this
showing
guy.
that? That's
Yeah.
great.
Let's go through all the assets first and foremost. So we have actually, I know the community was asking about daggers. We actually have a dagger that has been being worked on, which is really
Yeah.
cool. So we're like, let's show them a dagger. So this one is pretty awesome.
These are dual daggers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
these are
so
dual
this
daggers.
this was modeled by Carson, and the concept is by Jeff. And just looks amazing. And then Brad Constantine did a whole combination.
Animation.
Yes,
separate.
yeah, he
Really
animated
cool.
the character,
Yeah.
wielding those things
So I don't
around.
have those for you yet, because they weren't finalized. But I definitely wanted to show you the dagger. Toast was telling me y'all were talking about daggers, so I was like, maybe we can show you some dagger action. But yeah, coming along, we have a lot of different weapons that are being created and
Oh, yeah.
items for itemization for the quests that you're going to be completing and the content that's going to be in Alpha 1. So stay tuned for all of the awesomeness that you're going to achieve.
And these dual weapons will be in Alpha 1, actually.
Nice.
All right. And then moving from there, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was how we create creatures. And I know last episode of our live stream, we talked a little bit about it, but now I want to show it. One of the things that you all have been asking us about, and we talked about it last month, was that we have all these monthly cosmetics, or we have these creatures, and how that plays into the entire world and creation of Ashes of Creation. And really it does. It helps us a ton. What you're helping us do is you're creating a bear or creating a raptor, and now those things can become other creatures in the world. So it's not just one creature that we're creating one-off for this item. We're really going to create, hundreds of creatures just from one. Not only just creatures from them, but also variants of those creatures. So I wanted to showcase that and actually show you what that looks like. So the first one that we're going to show is one of them. I don't know which one he has in the order, so we'll just go check them out. So look at the creature variants.
1 second.
He's got some problems. But yeah, so what we're going to be showing today is we have a bear. So if you saw that we had a brew bear, we have multiple different versions of the brew bear that are coming up.
Yeah, there's some amazing ones.
Yeah, and then we also have the cursed charger. We'll have variants of that. So here's some differences.
So now to give you an idea, right?
Yeah.
This is using the base template of the core bear, right? Which is like the general geo, its skeletal rig, right? The animation set that's been authored for that particular bear.
Yep.
And then what we do is, we take variants, whether it be adding a layer of additional fur, changing the colors that are possible, even swapping out potentially some of the attachments as we have for the animal husbandry system, with whether it be feet or head or
making
tail,
it bulkier,
or making it bulky.
skinnier,
Exactly,
yeah.
as long as it fits within the confines and parameters of the authored animation, so we don't have to go back and necessarily retouch it majorly.
Right.
You have a whole lot of runway of potential variants that are capable to populate the world. So when players see us kind of demonstrating, the animals that the creatures that we've sold
They're animals.
through either Kickstarter or the monthly cosmetics, we're demonstrating, here's our promise list that we've already given out to players, but additionally, here's what it's capable of creating more so for the game's population.
Yeah.
And you think about bears, there's not just one type of bear in the world. We're going to have all different types of biomes, and Bacon's going to come on and talk a little bit more about that and some of the biomes they're creating. But we're going to have creatures that need to live in those biomes. And so one of the things that the artists are trying to do for us is being like, okay, we have these new biomes coming. What do we need to populate those?
Right.
And then they're like, okay, well, look at this bear. Like, we need this. So I need this.
Isn't that one awesome?
I need it. I love it so much. It reminds me of one of the cosmetics packs that I got to design, which was really pretty, very earthy.
This reminds me of that turtle in Neverending Story that comes out. Like, I could see this guy just resting in the ground,
And then,
not
like, a
knowing it's
city
there, and then
living-
he stands up.
Rises
Yeah.
up. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
So pretty.
Those blue glowing eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, kind of getting to see that and like where these creatures.
Here's a Cursed
change
Charger
into.
variant. You guys saw the Cursed Charger kind of snow leopardy look. We did a creation video on that, and here's some of the variants that exist for maybe like a plains kind of, tiger thing going on.
Is that a giraffe skin he's got going?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a little bit.
Yeah.
We need to give it longer legs.
No, you and your long legs.
What's wrong with long
You just
legs?
like every creature, it needs long
Legs, give it legs.
And then you have the
Legs,
Day
please.
Strider, and you're like, what is this thing?
The Day Strider's amazing.
It is amazing,
Legs
but
for days.
everyone's like, what
Yes,
is
legs
this?
for days.
But yeah, so I hope this kind of gives you a little bit of an understanding of how these creatures work and like what goes into them. These are also already being modeled.
Yeah.
Here's a Swift Claw
maybe next
variant.
time I'll actually be able to show you the final of these as well.
Yeah, these are a lot of concepts done by
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan had made these concepts, and I know Carson's already working on a bunch of the variants of these, so it's been cool
And
just seeing
Jinsy's
them
working
come.
on that hairy bear that we just
Oh
saw.
yeah, Jinsy's
This
working on
guy's
it too.
called the Pox Claw. Our PI people said yesterday that this should be called the Pox Claw.
Yeah.
Because when he attacks, you get a disease.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get the pox.
The pox.
Pox claw.
Pox Claw.
He is kind of strange looking, but I love it.
I love it. I just imagine
Don't
its
touch
eggs have
things
that
that
design
are
too.
colorful.
Yeah, you're not
Oh
supposed to
yeah,
do
the
that.
eggs.
The
like,
egg probably
the white
looks
egg
like
with
that.
The little,
Yeah,
and the little
absolutely.
tiny spike of green.
I'm saying see, there's going to be some quest in the game to steal the Pox Claw's eggs, and they're going to look like that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Sam, write that down. It's been cool seeing all of those creatures coming into fruition, and I hope that kind of showcases what I was talking to you about. I was trying to explain it last episode, and I know that people liked that explanation and liked seeing that, but I know you want to see what it really looks like in play. So here,
just
hopefully,
to get those visuals.
Yeah,
it's
and
so
we
satisfying.
have a bunch of other things like this. Like we have a few different deer, we have a few different other creatures, but I figured I would show you something that we were actually actively working on right now, which we don't always show all the variants that we're working on because like they're based off a creature that you've already seen before. But going forward, we have floating armor concepts that we're going to showcase. So, Stephen, this was kind of a direction from you. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
So this is something that players probably, you guys have seen from Alpha Zero. We had some floating armor within the Dunheim dungeon that Bacon created. And, you know, this is kind of taking, you know, variant armor sets and replacing the body mesh with kind of this energy and or, you know, ghost-like appearance, so that these animated armors, you know, represent the soldiers of old that would have protected these locations from potential, you know, looters and treasure hunters. So these are different variant type energies that can inhabit the armors themselves.
Yeah, and that kind of gives you an idea. You might be fighting them someday.
Oh, that's true.
So stay tuned for that. Which one's your favorite? Let us know. And then, of course, the thing that you've been working on that you're excited to share with us,
Yes.
Which is the scale runner. We're going to show
Scale
this.
runner, my baby.
He actually was
Have
able
we
to
ever
get us
shown
some-
the scale runner before?
I think you did. You
Did I sneakily do that?
Sneakily did it and shared it in Discord. So some people may have seen some.
But not this video.
Not this video. None of this footage. This is all new footage.
So this is the scale runner.
So he's kind of running around showing off some of the animations, and he's going to talk about
Yeah,
it.
so what you have here is the rider on the scale runner, and so this is you navigating around the world, and then he'll eventually at one of
He
these
does
points
jump, yeah.
he'll stop moving, and you'll see some of the different idle breaks.
Oh, we might have removed some of those because it was like you're sitting there for really long time. But
Oh,
towards the end,
You
there are.
removed the idols? Those are the
Well-
best part. They require such finesse when
That's my
getting
personality.
it right. Yeah,
points.
exactly.
There are some I think at the end here too, but I don't know if the camera pans back. Oh yeah, you do.
There you go. Look at him. Oh,
There we go.
He's
See,
like,
he
what am I
adjusts
doing
himself
here?
and-
Why am I not running right now?
Kind of tries to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so much fun to animate.
And he moves really fast. It seems
He does.
Like. The skitter's like really.
Yeah. So he's very low to the ground. So if you're on the Day Strider, you're like up in the sky, and this
Yeah.
guy's so low. So to go the same speed, he's got to move extra quick, like
He's
a
got
little
a little-
lizard. Yeah.
So
I know what this
I-
feels like
I
as a short
don't-
person.
I don't know.
Yeah. See, I know the other way.
I don't know what references you used
I was
when
gonna ask that.
authoring the animations, but what it reminds me of is in the Star Wars, I think it's like episode 2 or something, Obi-Wan Kenobi's riding that
Oh, yeah,
lizard
yeah.
along the wall,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's trying to
Yeah.
kill, I can't remember his name, but the robot dude.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's when he gets killed, and they shoot him, right? And he falls down. It's like, execute order 66, and the guy falls down. But that's what this reminds me of a little bit from an animation standpoint.
Yeah.
What did
yeah.
you use for inspiration?
Komodo dragons.
Komodo dragons.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of really good videos where they're hunting down like giant deer and
Yeah,
taking
they're
them down. I'm like,
crazy.
oh my god, these things are like monster dinosaurs
Yeah.
living
they are.
today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah, I looked at
alligators
those.
are
Yeah.
scary too.
Yeah.
When do you still get? Do you keep getting videos of those now in your search?
I do. Yes. Yeah. I open my YouTube page and there's like all these animals.
So now this is kind of like the different attacks and things of that sort for combat.
Yeah. So we were animating this guy for the MMO, doing all these different attacks and things that can happen. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to put a rider on him and see if you can have a rider on there while he's doing an attack?
absolutely. Now, don't interpret this, players out there, that this is necessarily going to be mounted attacks for you as a player character. Rather, you might see an NPC
yeah.
enemy mounted on this, and then it would have attacks.
You're
So,
crushing dreams, Steve.
I know. But mounted combat comes with a whole different
It
type
does.
of.
Yeah.
It does.
If we make that the bar to rise to, every mount's going to have a rider animated.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I
oh
know.
my
Yeah.
gosh, the animation team will kill me.
I know. Look what you've done, Dave. What have you done?
But this has been really cool, and I know you did have a set of animations too without a rider on it and things of that sort. So, but we wanted to show them off because this is something a little bit different. And your baby that you've been working on.
Yes, yeah. It was my first.
Which animation is your favorite?
I like the tail swipe.
Tail swipe,
is so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, Tails
I
Swipe.
love that one.
Good.
I love that one, and I'm sorry to say it, I love the death.
You love the death? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, when they
Because they both fall down, and
His
if
alarm flaps.
only the camera was closer, you would see his little tongue sticking out. He's just.
Oh, that's sad.
That's great.
I
like the roar there.
Yeah, that one was good too.
And I know the
like that.
designers are like once they get these creatures, they're then like having behavioral intelligence put into the game for
Yep.
each of them, and so you're fighting them, and it's cool to see that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah. I also had a video where it didn't look good because they were all kind of on top of each other, but I dropped like 8 of them into one level.
Oh no.
And then I put the character in there, and they're all just attacking them, and it was so chaotic and
Like
so
vicious.
awesome. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
oh, I can't wait to see a bunch of them in the world.
Oh yeah, people are gonna fight them, and then make stuff out of them probably. I don't know. So next up we have a shadow dragon pet, and I think we showed concept potentially of this in the past.
Yeah,
Maybe
this
I
is,
don't remember if we did, Steven.
Oh, I don't know.
Jinxie's
But
model.
Jinsey has been creating this. Personally, I don't think this is a dragon because dragons require 4 legs, and then the wings are also appendages, in my opinion.
Well,
Fight me.
There's different
say-
types of dragons.
Um,
we don't need to be dragon elitists here.
I'm a dragon elitist, Steven.
Unbelievable.
But he's
Unbelievable.
dragon
But this is-
his
Yeah.
body.
This
And
is
besides,
so
this is I think
cool.
like a shadow
It has
shadow
like
pseudo dragon.
little tentacle things on the side. It's so weird. I love it
He's a
though.
water dragon.
Yeah,
Oh, it looks like a bat dragon.
bat dragon. I
It's
love it. I
really
think it
pretty.
looks
I
great.
love the color of it.
Yeah.
I know Sarah will probably love the color of this because Toast loves purple.
The other thing is, I think because this is a shadow dragon, I mean, this is going to come with a lot. This is just the model. It's going to come with a lot of like shadowy effects that are going to inhabit the body. Additionally, I could see some type of opacity applied to the mesh on the back end so that it's somewhat transparent. You can see through it a little bit, and then it will have that kind of shadow effect. So
Jesse would probably love that.
yeah.
It's neat seeing these creatures like this, and then having our effects artist kind of like he gets to play around with all these different fun things. He has so much on his plate. We need more effects artists. Hey.
Hey.
So I think we also have I was gonna say we have a video that's spinning around.
Oh, do we?
Just for the
just so
record.
you can see it.
Just for the record, I want to animate this character.
You want to animate it? All right.
This is
you
the
gotta-
one I want to
You
animate.
gotta fight Jinsey for the animating.
I do. She is so good.
I think Jess animated the Fey Dragon one.
Yep.
So
Yep. And
I feel
that
like
looked
it has
amazing
yeah,
too.
It's cute. So moving from here, we also have the Soothe Root Satchel, which you've seen concept art of, but now this is the 3D model of it. And I know Steven has talked a little bit about how belts and stuff will work with attachments and being able to attach different things on it.
Absolutely.
So.
These are, the idea is to kind of move away from the mundane kind of application of belts in previous MMOs where they don't really have a lot of character, so to speak. But in reality, as an adventurer, you come with a lot of tools and things that you have to use out in the wild in order to achieve, what you're trying to achieve. So we wanted to kind of represent that, on your character and give you something that you can actually, be tangible for your character and see there. And I think it adds a lot of character and flavor, to your identity.
This was one of the first monthly cosmetic items that I actually got to design. So seeing it in a 3D model is really
Awesome.
cool from my perspective, because I was trying to go for the leafy leather look, and it's been really cool seeing all the stuff come to
This is
fruition.
Carson did this, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, Carson did a great job with this.
And speaking of that pack, there actually is the stag of the bows. And this, I'm just so happy to see this created. It's so pretty.
You really are a
Yeah.
Jinsey fan, aren't you?
Well, I designed.
Who's not a Jinsey
I
fan?
am a Jinsey fan.
When's
but
Jinsey gonna
also-
come on the stream?
She doesn't want to go on the stream, Jinsey.
Oh.
But we've been trying. I know.
All right, community,
Kat
we have
can
to
keep
send her
saying that he's
fan
gonna
mail.
try, yeah.
We have to send Jinsey fan mail.
But I'm specifically because this creature is one of the ones that I got to design first, so I
wow.
think it's really pretty. And it's really neat.
Yeah.
And she's already making variations of it too, so that's cool seeing those as well. Which we
love
don't have.
that
We don't have
turquoise
those
color.
ready to share yet, but
I really like that, with this particular mount, there is such a grand nature to its antlers. It really kind of communicates, and I think kind of the reference here for me at least is in The Hobbit when you see the King of the Elves with his giant stag, right? And then that's just such a grand appearance. This I think kind of communicates a little bit of that as well.
And I think that's kind of what we were going for was that like regal aspect for that
absolutely.
pack, which was really
Right.
nice. And then the pattern that's actually on the creature, if you read the lore that we put out for it, is that's the clan of the deer, or this creature, the stags. So all of the all of the deer of this clan will have that same pattern, which is really cool.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
she's working on other patterns for other clans that will be variants, which is really neat.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we have, this is kind of a little sneak peek into some stuff that we're working on. Catkins has been fixing up the starter outfit for the MMO. And so you're going to get a little sneak peek of the male version of this. He also has the female version that he's working on, which is a little different. So this is kind of, I don't know if you want to walk through how like this process works a little bit.
This is go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
I wish I could walk through the
No,
process.
It's okay.
Holy
I got a
cow,
little
these
bit of-
guys have so much technical knowledge that is going into here because you got to balance the male with the female, and then how is it going to progress through the whole thing? And Catkins and Myers are just like sitting down together and figuring out the folder structure and all these technical things, and it's like
And the
holy
textures,
moly.
like if you zoom in on this image, it is
Oh, it
amazing
is.
looking at like that leather texture.
Oh yeah.
So
Looks
I
so
mean,
beautiful.
what you're seeing here really is an example of a starting kind of clothing set that players will wear when they enter into the world, so to speak. And one of the great things about how our character team is kind of tackling all of these pieces and components of the different armors and clothing that are possible is a very modular approach, so that mixing and matching different pieces that a character could potentially wear is going to be possible, and everything is created in a way so that you can the character team has the ability to create many different types of outfits and styles and variations, mixing and matching these base components and pieces.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really cool seeing everything that everyone creates. I loved looking at it. It's amazing. We did have a question that came in from Zablid asking, will mounts have their own emotes that they can activate by the player?
The idea is for mounts, that twofold. One is mounts will have certain types of skills that will become available as the mount reaches certain levels. And those types of skills will have actual application in the game. They'll have mechanics associated with them, whether it be kind of like a charge or stun or maybe some of them will have attacks.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is we've definitely thought about the ability to kind of give them emotes so that they can have interesting interactions. I don't know if that's going to be fit into our launch kind of approach, but it would be something we'd love to have. I just don't know if it'll fit necessarily.
Yeah. Maybe down the line.
Absolutely,
It could be something that we add down the line.
All
I
the
know the
animators
RP
wanna
community
do it.
definitely wants a
Right.
lot of animations, and we do have some other emote style stuff, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But thank you, Dave, so much
Yeah,
for joining
so much
us.
fun. Thank
you, Dave, for
Whenever
having me
you
in.
have new stuff to share with us, we hope that you'll join us again.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
It wasn't
For
too
sure.
scary.
No, it was more scary sitting off stage.
I know, it's like the anxiety of it all, but I hope
Exactly.
we made you feel comfortable.
You did.
Yeah,
You did. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
We're going to be bringing on the Baconator. Of
Bacon!
course, Bacon is coming back.
Does he come with candy?
I come with candy.
Yay!
Always comes with candy.
I can't sit in
Oh.
these chairs. These are
Can't
crazy.
sit in these
Do you
chairs.
like these chairs?
Whoa!
Yay!
Look out! It's like a theme park ride or something.
Come on in. Come closer.
hello.
I'll move over.
Okay.
Cool. So, Bacon, how have you been?
How you
Good.
doing?
I'm doing
Bringing the
good.
candy?
Yes!
He brought his
Thank
sunglasses.
you.
Yes.
Oh, you got
I
sunglasses.
got like a little Witcher look going on.
You got a little witcher. Oh, you got a little
Toss a
ponytail.
coin to your
It's
witcher.
It's not quite long enough to put in a bun yet, but you're
Getting there.
there.
Getting there.
Is that the goal?
I don't know if it's a goal.
What's
You
the
need
goal?
to put some like cool beads in your beard.
I'm just letting it go.
Let it go.
Yeah,
how
see
it
where it
rolls.
goes. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's about it, really.
So tell the community who maybe doesn't know who you are and what you do.
Everybody knows who I am.
Not
I have to do
everybody.
this
There's
every
new
time.
people.
I have to do this every time,
There's new
Stephen. What's
people.
going
Who
on?
are you, Bacon?
I'm bacon.
Bacon!
Everyone knows I'm bacon. Michael Bagan, lead environment artist. That's what it says. There.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay!
He's the lead environment dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, so talk to us a little bit about what your team has been working on.
Okay,
in
so we've been
general.
coming off of, bug fixes on Castle Siege, so we're finally kind of through all that. And we're not on to the MMO. We've been working on the MMO, but we're all hands on deck now.
Yeah.
All hands on deck.
Which is great.
No more Castle Siege stuff really, other than
Yeah,
bug fixing.
other than
yeah.
other than the occasional, hey, it's a bug, I'll come.
Yeah.
It's a bug diversion or whatever.
So one of the things that they've been doing is you guys have been prepping current assets, and making sure that they're ready for
the MMO.
for the Alpha 1.
Yeah,
phase.
so because we put the the hex system, the node system, like that's all coming together now, which is neat.
Yes,
So
so
to
you
get-
actually have some assets to show us
But as we're-
what that looks like.
Yeah, so as we're doing that, everything has to be prepped for that specifically, which is like we were using a prefab system, which didn't really work. Well, I mean, it worked, but it was.
But that was one of the great things that Apocalypse illuminated for us,
Yeah, it was
right?
just
Because
it was-
we utilized that prefab system within Apocalypse, and we
Yeah.
saw the downsides of the prefab approach.
Exactly,
And instead, we were able to iterate on that approach for the MMORPG based off of the information we took from Apocalypse.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
talk to us about what that means, because from some players' perspectives, what does prefab mean exactly?
Well, prefab was the way that we collected the assets and put them in, so we can so a house would have all the population in the house. All that stuff had to be sort of contained in a container that then we would use. We would just place the house with all the pre-assets already kind of in place and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And
so
what didn't work with that, just so we can kind of.
I mean, it was as far as the development, set up. It would you would save the prefab, and then you'd have to go and resave over the levels. Any prefab that you changed ended up having to manually go through the levels and change all that stuff. It was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
As far as the way it handled
Not
that,
future-proof
and then
and
yeah,
scalable.
and then plus there was some other little annoying little nitpicky things. It just weren't cohesive to doing something on a larger
Massive.
scale.
Yeah. So now walk us through the new process and what you guys are going to be doing with that. And obviously we have some images here to show as well.
Yeah, so anyway, the node system, I mean, the way that now we're using blueprints, and those are the containers, and so we could do a lot more with them because we can actually attach a lot of code to them, and blueprints within blueprints, so it's a lot of kind of embedded sort of assets on top of each other and that kind of thing, but it lets us have a lot more control, be able to swap things out a lot easier, and then we can also add scenarios like the node system stuff. Like when we go through different races, we want to be able to swap the assets that are inside those houses, and so those are containers that contain like specific types of things in them that might be specific to a race or whatever, and then now we have the control to be able to swap those out, like in real time as we're, working on, as you're going into a town, we switch the town out, this building switches out, we
Yeah.
can switch the stuff into the building.
And it automatically does a lot.
And depending on like maybe wealth levels or something, we can swap things out from like, a lower poverty grade,
Right.
Yeah.
couch
To
to
a gold
something.
trimmed.
Exactly.
And that can be
So-
based off of certain data points that accrue in the back end, kind of showing what's been the total. Did I get brought water?
Yes.
Thank you. How did he know? Who was that?
That was Brian.
That was Brian. I love Brian. Thank you. Sorry, I ran out of water. No, I'm sorry. Going back to there's a lot of data that gets collected on the status of a node, right? And now we can pull from that data and we can reflect change in real time, as you were saying,
Exactly.
kind of demonstrating what the wealth of a city is,
Yeah.
what the predominant culture. We already do that, but
Yeah.
a lot of different things. And then, as you were saying, kind of implementing the hex grid system. Previously in Alpha 0, we kind of brute forced the way the layout of our node system was. We manually created these templates and location of these nodes, which really wasn't something that could be duplicated for just the vast amount of nodes that will exist in the world. So, great thing about the environment team is, they came up with an approach to kind of answer the call for having such diversity, having all of these, representations that are procedurally as well as, authored to kind of represent the different types of nodes that exist.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be able to control like weight things, to specific things. So if like you got a node that's particular like a city level or whatever, the town center will be, primarily in a certain specific location. Like we could dictate that, and then a lot of the things that are around it sort of are more, randomized so when they come in, it's like a different layout,
Mm-hmm.
and so that
And they've been
but
really
that's,
finalizing the feel of each of these.
yeah,
different
and then
races.
on top of that, like with the using blueprints, it's like we're not using two different systems. Or we got a prefab system that's like kind of different, and then it's like we're keeping it consistent. All everything from prop placement all the way up to structures and the actual hex that grid that these things are on are all containers inside of blueprints.
The other great thing about kind of the hex-based system and the procedural generation of these types of things is that even though they're procedurally a portion of them is procedurally generated, there are confines and parameters that are allocated to the generation of these types of nodes that fit what the design needs are from a siege perspective, from, as you said, the centralized location of the city hall, of the culture of the node as well. I mean, all those things are parameters that are input into the procedural system.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you are going to show kind of a little sneak peek of some animation testing that.
We haven't talked about this yet.
No, we didn't talk about these.
I keep asking about it.
Anyway, all this this isn't really all that exciting.
If you have more
all
to
it is
talk
we
about on
took
it.
some of the assets that we had. These are like more of the human assets, and I've sort of bumped them up so they're more detailed.
Mm-hmm.
I've been implementing like decals into that, which are we're able to take the walls and stuff and put a lot more detail into them, so it's not just generic or just random. It's added. So there's a lot more detail, a lot more textural.
And these, some people may recognize, the general structure of these types of buildings from their time playing, testing in Apocalypse. But the great thing again about Apocalypse that kind of transitioned into the MMORPG is you took those assets and you kind of defined the ceiling, and it turns out that you could actually put more detail, you could put more, props in there, because from a from an optimization standpoint, from a performance standpoint, there was room.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, like I took like a lot of the beam work was we were kind of playing around with the fantasy thing, and some of those, I kind of pushed them back more into a realistic realm where like the beam work wasn't so exaggerated and things like that. Mm-hmm. So and they're tighter. They're a lot tighter now. So anyway, kind of happy with happy with the way they turned out, and as we're kind of going through the assets, older assets, and and as we're prepping them and putting them into the MMO, we're just kind of taking a pass on them and making sure they're greater, stronger, faster.
Fit up to Bacon's
Stronger, faster.
OCD.
Yeah.
His perfectionism.
Exactly.
He's like, I don't know if I want to show this. I don't know if I want to show this.
Yeah, that's my running thing.
Yeah, that's what he tells me every time. He's like, I don't know if this isn't ready yet.
I like that.
Like I've asked him for like these biome stuff, and he's like, they're not ready yet. So
And they aren't ready.
next, he wants
They're
to,
almost ready.
He wants to
Next
show him
month.
when he can wow you.
Yeah, next month.
But he does have a little sneak peek of this animation that he was willing to share, kind of showcasing like.
This is just this is
kind of
just like
building
the
of
bear
a plot.
just starting to concept kind of out, like when you want to build something in the world.
Yeah, like a freehold
So
building.
this is basically like
The framework's all coming up and
right. So this will obviously get a little bit more detailed with some effects and maybe even some like NPCs.
Yeah, there's nothing. This is
just
the Ward
construction,
version,
right?
The bare bones,
but to give you guys an idea of where this is starting to go, in the game, whether you're constructing something on your freehold or whether you're participating in a city project for creating a new building within your node, there's going to be obviously stages of development for that particular building that's going to be represented within the game to kind of give this aesthetic of an actual construction occurring, the time that it takes. So, what we're seeing here is the bare bones, obviously, of that, but it's going to have effects, and it's going to have some NPCs, and, you're going to be bringing materials and components to the building, and you're going to see it construct in real time, which is something really cool, because not a lot of games I know have that. I mean, I've seen obviously games like that I played in where they have different stages, but I haven't seen progression from stage to stage. So it's cool, like actual animated progression.
We're still doing stage to stage, but we're having animations in between.
Right, there's a transition between those. There's a blending between those different stages, which is something that's cool.
It's a little sexier just to actually see stuff being constructed.
Absolutely.
It being all static and stuff. So so this is the inklings of the startings of all that.
Yeah.
So yay!
I didn't know you threw this in there.
Oh, sorry.
Cool. No, no. I like it.
Yeah,
After the meeting, it's like you're fired.
What Margaret was criticizing you for, I actually, and I like that
Yeah.
there's a high, attention to quality.
Yeah.
No, I agreed.
Yeah.
I agreed after
She had to
he
convince me on
explained.
that one.
He explained to me. I convinced him on this one, but the other one, I agree.
Oh,
with
you did? You
I
convinced me on
agree.
that? You didn't want to show this, did you?
Yeah, he didn't want to show this.
This wasn't ready for
It's
prime
not
time.
ready.
Margaret's like, no.
But I think it's cool to see the progress, and when you show us the final stuff, it's going to be even better. And obviously, I agree with you on the other one that you didn't want to show, because I think you're right. It's going to be really sexy when
What
they
was
see
the
it.
other one?
That was just the terrain, the
It's the
devastation,
terrain stuff,
the biome
stuff.
which we'll talk about.
It's looking
But-
really cool, but it's like I want to,
Yeah.
there's times where you want, where it's like, yeah, this is cool enough, yeah, I'll show it, whatever. And then there's other times where it's like, no, if we just hold off just a little bit.
A little bit longer, yeah.
Yeah, then it's much
But now you have
larger.
pressure, because we talked about
No, you're looking
Did you Mr. Burns me?
Next up, I mean, we've obviously been showing a lot of the different node kind of like feels and vibes for each of the stages. And now we have the Valoon concepts to kind of show you all. And,
Yay.
this is what Bacon was talking about, where he's, they're building up all these different cities and towns and stuff like that, and they're using these tools and the back end of this, moving away from the prefabs.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of getting to see the Valoon.
Well,
in
this is,
action.
we're doing all the color comps,
Yeah.
to really just bring in the look and feel of all the races and stuff. And so next on the list was the Valoon, the human Valoon.
Okay, we just skipped all the
So-
way to the Metropolis.
No, this isn't Metropolis.
That's
That's
encampment.
encampment.
That's encampment.
No, the Metropolis is going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fucking.
Whoa!
Steven
What did
swears.
you say? I was going to say it's huge.
Dude,
It's
I
huge.
was so tempted to just
Oh,
double
no,
down.
don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, my God. Oh, no.
Awesome, Steven. I
No,
love you.
no.
I love you.
This looks
I would say it's huge.
It's just really,
Yeah.
It's
just,
very
just amp it up.
huge.
Amp
Yeah,
it up.
no.
Just don't hold back. Just go
No.
for it.
But I do love seeing this, this desert, the town and
The desert comp?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the desert
desert
comp. It's very golden,
Oh, yeah.
kind of looking at all.
And
these-
I mean, the Valoon, we really wanted to have these types of warm
Yeah.
color compositions,
this is
right?
definitely
Because
more,
it kind of
absolutely.
represents that culture, traditionally, right? That kind
Yeah,
of
so-
Sultan-esque.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's some kind of pastel-y kind of color schemes and things.
and I like the building tops in this. They're very different from the other ones. That
Oh
we've
yeah,
seen,
yeah, for sure.
And then I think we have one more. Yeah.
And that's like village center, and then we have then we start moving into the town.
The other thing I would say, and you
You can
guys,
see the town crier kind of calling out here
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people to come over.
hear ye.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, guys, is in our experiences as MMORPG players, the MMOs we play don't usually have such a wide array of player character cultures that have to be represented, especially from the standpoint of how each node can represent the full progression from camp to metropolis in each of these different cultures. We may see or experience in a game player character cultures of 4, maybe 5 at max. When you get above 5, we don't really see that usually in the MMOs we've played. I mean, usually that's about max. We have 9 different cultures we have to
Yeah.
represent.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the challenge of it is trying to get them to look so diverse.
Yes.
That they just that
When
they
you
really
look at it,
differentiate
yeah.
themselves. And I think we've been doing a really good job.
And that's why originally when I was kind of imagining the inspiration for these 9 different cultures, I rooted that within real world references, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's, obviously the best representation you can have in game.
And you can relate easily. right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
is something from a real world reference that then you can amplify with fantasy or
Exactly,
amplify,
exactly.
on top of
Yeah.
that.
the grounding.
Right.
I
kind
love
of a
the
grounding
art.
foundation.
You don't have to sell me on it. I'm in. Take me there.
Yeah, so this is like the town mode where we start getting into cobblestone streets and
Yeah.
not sidewalk and cobblestone like what you see in the city
They have
level.
some
but-
civilization building
Exactly,
up.
yeah. So we're kind of.
But it still keeps the essence of the race.
Yeah,
which
actually,
I
we
think
find
is
it kind
cool.
of hard, like going from it gets kind of finite going from village to town to.
I think there's 3
city.
major transitions that are
Yeah.
easy to accomplish, but the problem is we have 3 additional.
Exactly.
You can go from camp, village, and town, but then getting to city and metropolis, or camp to encampment, those are
Yeah.
where's the differentiation?
Exactly. So so one of the heavy definition or defined elements of like between like a town and a city.
It's like, what
you
kind,
know,
what's
it's like,
the next
yeah,
stage
the
of
broken
that civilization,
cobblestone
right?
versus
Yeah.
like the full-on, kind of streets with sidewalks and foundations that buildings are sitting on, and giving it a
And I really
much
think
more structured sort
where
of.
you guys have found a comfortable blend between those transition periods that might have been difficult is really just kind of amplifying the buildings of that particular stage, so to speak, from village to town or city to metropolis. Just amplifying, adding volume, and grandiosity.
Yeah, and a lot of contrast. We're trying to pull a lot of so when you're in the village state, or you're really in village, where it's really run down, and and then as it reaches into the city and metropolis level, it's pristine.
And Bacon is a perfectionist. He's like,
but he's also
things, he's
I don't
like,
know if I'm a perfectionist.
he's also a realist, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
True.
say the benefit. Here's the thing about game development. I mean, obviously, projects of this size are going to experience delays, and we've had our fair share of delays thus far. But our goal isn't to be perfect. Our goal is to have a quality that makes you guys proud and makes us proud, right? And we can iterate further as we launch and release, and that kind of thing. So I would say Bacon's really a good realist in that sense.
that's
That's
true.
very
You do come around quick and make a decision, and then we change things. But I do see like the element of like, this doesn't quite
nobody
fit
wants to
with
show
the,
something that, nobody wants, you kind of want it to look right,
Yeah, of course, yeah. And like you said, you have like all these different races that you're really trying to confine in. And then when I see feedback that you're giving to people, you're like, hey, this doesn't really fit that. Like the pirate or works.
Well, and that's because we're trying to, we're trying to build these divides where it's like, this race does not look like this race, and you really have to differentiate them. And so, you have to kind of put those fire lanes in, saying, no, don't do that.
Hey,
that race does not go over the line here.
It works.
You got to put the foot down.
Exactly.
And of course, we are definitely going to be over time, so thank you all for hanging out with us. We still have 20 more minutes of questions probably, but we'll see how much Sarah can get through.
Oh my gosh, we're so over
I
time.
know.
Oh, it's crazy.
But you guys don't mind.
Every time.
They don't mind.
We have been every time.
They love it, right?
So,
No.
not every time, but like
No.
lately we've been going. So I do want to touch on one last thing, which was you want to kind of talk about, like, just talk a little bit about the biomes that are in production and that you're going to kind of showcase maybe next live stream, which
I
is
don't know. I want to talk about a lot of the biomes. I mean,
the grasslands and the magical
right
forest
now we're
area.
focused on the grasslands and the magical forest. So, but we can actually kind of save that for.
Yeah, you want to save that?
Yeah, let's
Just save that.
Save that for biomes.
To save
next
that
time.
now would be like, then I have much more to talk about.
Yeah.
That. So instead of like say it now and then have to like regurgitate overnight.
Okay.
It's like, well, this is.
I'll
what
ask
we're
these
working
2
on
questions and then we'll swap over
Okay.
and we'll have Sarah join, which was
It's really
going
warm in
back
here.
to the. I like it.
Super hot.
Going back to the outfit that we had, Guildhearts wanted to know. Please clarify. I thought we could get, we wouldn't get such traditional clothes as starting outfits because the people who made it through the gate in the lore were the elites. Hence why they had flashier outfits earlier on in the cycle. Has that changed?
No, it hasn't changed. When you achieve kind of armor within the game at early stages, it's probably going to look, a little bit more grandiose than you might be used to as starting armor, so to speak, from other games that you've played. But at the same time, there's still going to be general clothing appearances that are going to be kind of starting clothing before you get your starter armors and stuff. We just kind of wanted that transition so you can see from a civilian who's entering a new world you know nothing about to immediately being thrust into this type of, a danger role that's out there in this undiscovered country, so to speak. Star Trek. Sorry, but you'll transition, and that starting clothing will kind of give you that anchor of sense,
All right, and then one more question, which is any news on the usage of Chaos System from Unreal Engine?
We've kind of moved away from that. We think there's a lot of potential with that system, but for an MMORPG, optimization is such a key component of making a massively multiplayer game that we want to see a little bit more established, technology within that system before we begin to implement it within the game.
Yeah, I mean, Unreal hasn't really officially. I mean, they've launched it in a sort of sense,
Kind of beta-y.
but they haven't. They haven't officially said it's ready to go.
Right.
You know. And
So there's always potential in the future, but
no, and we're definitely going to R&D it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We're definitely going to move forward. Like, you know,
And I mean,
looking
you've
at
already
it.
looked. You've
Yeah,
already
we're
looked at it.
Yeah, we're not going back to the Apex
Yeah.
system.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we did implement a system that works well for what we currently have with
Right.
Castle Siege. But yeah, I mean, we have no intentions of not continuing forward with that.
And we're constantly going to be looking at new technology that comes out and checking it out and seeing if it works for us or if it doesn't, right?
Yeah,
Because our
again,
goal is to always progress.
Yeah, the chaos system just wasn't ready for prime time.
All right.
It wasn't ready.
Well, thank you, Bacon, so much.
Thank you, Bacon.
We're actually going to have
Bye, Bacon.
Toast is actually going to be taking over host, and Jeffrey is going to be joining you all. So I'll see you all later.
Bye, Margaret.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Is the chair nice and toasty for
Yeah,
me?
I
I'm gonna
warmed it up
scoot
for
A
you.
right
Freddie
in here.
Mercury. Oh
Yes, I
my
had to bring
gosh.
this amazing mug in here.
What is
So
that?
this mug is thanks to the amazing Quaternion Slurp. You may have had him answer some of your support tickets before,
Oh, wow.
Corey. His other half, she also has a bread-related handle.
No
so
way.
she got one of these for herself. Oh, we
That is so cool.
And
Oh, can I go glass for them?
there we go. Here, wait. There we go.
Perfect.
Why did we
Surprise!
decide? Why did we decide to do this?
I don't know. Why
It was
did
your
you
idea.
decide to do this?
Oh, yeah,
at the
it was my
last
idea.
one?
Yeah. Well, it was because these sunglasses came from nowhere.
Oh, okay.
Mystery sunglasses.
To be clear,
Those are
I
nice
saw these
sunglasses.
whose are they?
I don't know, but they're nice. They're
I
Ray-Bans.
saw these on the table just before the stream, and I said, you know what? We should wear sunglasses.
Yeah. That's how decisions are made around here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, without further ado, thank you guys for joining us so far in the stream. We have a whole bunch of questions from you guys that we asked for on the forums in advance. So we have this forum Q&A thread that we put out about a week in advance before the stream, and we gather all the questions from you and the community. We ask you to please keep them short and sweet and only post one question in there. And a lot of you guys are really great about that, and you only post one question. A couple folks get really passionate and post a lot of questions, which is awesome, and we want to get a chance to answer them all, but we want to make sure we get questions from everybody. I also took some time yesterday when I was going through all these questions, and if some of you posted repeat questions on the forums that we may have answered before, I went ahead and tagged you and wrote a little note and let you know where you can learn some more information about it, where we may have talked about it before, so you have time. And a lot of those links actually come from an amazing wiki that is curated by our community and by Lex, which is the Ashes of Creation wiki, which has collected a lot of awesome info over the years. So if you want to go back and, when exactly on a live stream did we say this one particular thing about boats, I guarantee you it's out there somewhere. So without further ado, we'll dive right into these questions. All right, the first one is from Jalon, and it is about the map, since everyone is excited about the map that they saw in the creative director's letter. He is asking, can we please get some clarification on the world map, specifically how much of that 480 square kilometer map is land and how much is water? So they were looking at the map.
That's a
and
good
kind of
question.
gridding it out.
I don't know how much.
I don't know. We haven't
exactly
figured it out.
mapped
But
it.
when we talk about 480 square kilometers, we talk about playable area.
Right.
There are areas on the edges that we really wouldn't consider to be playable. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't know
don't
the
know.
exact amount that is land versus water, but the water is playable area as well,
Yeah.
and it's going to have content, and it's
Yep.
going to have creeps and trade areas and
Things to discover.
things to discover and treasures, and fun
Adventures
stuff.
to go
Yeah.
on, all sorts of things. All right. Next question is from Gilgamesh and also from Will of D's, who asks, will there be an emphasis on visual clarity as a core design principle for PvP? So, not so much effects glowing everywhere, or, what's our focus on?
The plan is to
philosophy
kind of
around it.
leave that up to the player to decide. Give people plenty of options to kind of determine how clear they want the battlefield to be, or how important that is to them in terms of how they play.
Yeah.
Clarity as a design principle is important to us.
Absolutely.
Like when we talk about, we want you to be able to read what's going on in a situation
Yeah.
and understand it.
The most important aspect, at least from a design, I think, principle with regards to PvP, is offering the players threat assessment, a very easily visible threat assessment, whether that be understanding that there are certain color palettes assigned with certain energy types, that certain classes will have certain principles of skill usage and effects types that are present, that certain armor types will have a specific silhouette that's easily recognizable. the idea for PvP is that from a distance, you as a player should be able to ascertain what exactly the threat you're getting involved in and make a snap decision based off of that information. So we want it to be very clear and present to the player.
All right. Cadewood asks, will there be surprise encounters with epic beings that are part of Vera where the only thing you can do is watch them and enjoy or just ignore and move on? So not world bosses where you have to fight them, but say there's like a giant tree creature that just goes traipsing through the forest and you just kind of look at it.
Oh, I think that's a great aesthetic, you know, and even early on when we kind of showed the giant tree creature, you know, the concept there was that this is a world that exists even without you. And sometimes you're not the central component of that world, you're an observer. So, you know, I think that it's a great component of storytelling when we have those types of events existing for players to just observe and get immersed in.
Yeah, and to tell a deeper story, right? We were actually just having this conversation about a specific type of public event and whether or not we should consider it a public event because there wasn't a resolution to it, and it was just moving the story forward, and whether we should consider that a cinematic sort of thing or a thing that should actually be a triggered public event. So those are the kinds of things that we are talking about, and that we want to use to help tell that story show rather than just telling.
All right. Neris asks, will the healing archetypes suit a variety of playstyles? For example, direct burst healing versus heal over time, or a damage mitigation healer versus like a healing through damage.
Yes.
So just a variety of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, the
short answer, yes.
But no,
answer.
Ryan, go ahead. We've talked a lot about you know, building your playstyle, right? And the goal is to give you as many options as possible in the skill tree and have you be able to decide kind of how you want to play. And most of those playstyles will be represented.
Okay. Miyaku asks, what class has been your favorite to play so far and why?
I will take the Fifth Amendment on that because I feel answering that will give a inappropriate disposition towards one class.
I understand.
You don't want to bias.
I don't want to bias the community.
Got it.
You can answer.
I'm always surprised at how fun. Well, I guess I shouldn't say surprised, right? But the ranger play is really fun. The tactical piece of that, moving in and out of melee combat, like, is exciting and fun in a way that I didn't expect from it.
See, now I will say that I would target the ranger on a battlefield.
Ooh, because you know it's him.
Yeah, well, no. Because rangers have been the bane of my favorite class's existence.
Fair enough. There you go. All right. Let's see. And then Magic Man asks, will gathering involve simply clicking and waiting for a bar to fill, or more of an interactive real-time process like holding down keys or having to move the camera or anything like that?
We don't really want to, you know, inundate that process with a lot of interaction because sometimes gathering can be kind of a relaxing kind of thing that crafters and gatherers want to be able to do without having to worry about a lot of quick time events or interactions. So to speak,
it's definitely not a place that we were looking to put that kind of interaction in. We're probably not going to reinvent the wheel on that.
Exactly.
All right.
I mean, crafters and gatherers enjoy, you know, the kind of relaxing state it is to just go out and
Like,
explore and
you're
grab
watching a Twitch
stuff.
stream while you're gathering, while you're doing something else.
And we want to
drinking
cater to
coffee.
that play style because, you know, people that tend to gather are the people who enjoy that, you know, aspect.
All right. Mayhem asks, do you have any plans on keeping players interested in playing Apocalypse after level 50, such as additional levels, prestige, or achievements for cosmetic items? So this is specifically about Apocalypse.
Right.
Yes.
What was the question?
They were asking if we have plans on keeping players interested in playing Apocalypse after level 50. So,
got it.
you know, a prestige system or upcoming seasons, anything like that.
You know, Apocalypse is really you know, something that was meant to gather information for us, you know, moving forward with the development of the MMORPG, and it's definitely satisfied that purpose. You know, we're going to evaluate, you know, what we're going to implement with Apocalypse moving forward, and we're definitely going to let the community know what that results in. But right now, we don't necessarily have an answer for that.
Okay. Talents asks, we know that there will be legendary weapons. What about the possibility of legendary spells that are equally as rare?
I love that.
We've talked about augments being in that category. We really have to see how that fits in, though. There are things about abilities that are a little bit different than items in terms of sort of maintaining parity and balance, but it's something that we are exploring.
Something that early on, and I think we moved away from this idea, but something early on that I really loved the idea of, in other games that I've played, you get legendary weapons that have some type of activatable skill, that is available, and those are usually the most sought after because they added a different dimension to your class, so to speak. But having some type of legendary scroll with limited use or limited time that could be dropped from a boss that gives access to a spell component, or that can be applied as an augment, as Jeff said, is something I thought is a dynamic that I haven't seen explored in a lot of other games, and I think it would be really cool to have an option to do that. But I don't know if we're going to implement that or not.
Alrighty. Carefree Cactus asks, can a summoner summon a dragon or something similar if the proper class was picked? Not as a mount, just for combat. I want to know about a dragon.
Yeah, I think dragon species, are definitely a viable summon component. That's something that you will have access to. The other cool thing about the summoner that we want to implement is kind of a summon creation suite where you can customize the appearance potentially of
Based on what you found in the world.
Exactly.
Build your own.
And
cool
build your
creature.
exactly.
It's more like a
I think
necromancer
that's
thing.
that's something that's already going to be. That's something that's already going to be
Build your own
implemented.
adventure.
Something that's already going to be implemented with the animal husbandry system, and there's no reason why we can't take that technology, that system, and apply it elsewhere, such as with the summoner components.
Gotcha. All right.
Jeff just had a heart attack.
He did a little
Nice
bit.
getting
I'm just
coming.
I know.
That's why the sunglasses are on. You just see the smile.
It's somewhere. It's in the GDD.
Behind
It's in the GDD.
It is.
There you go. All right. Bot asks, how viable will PvP, arena, or open world be for gearing up? So, for example, many other games take this as you'll get a PvP currency for participating in PvP, which then you can use to get gear and be on a similar level as someone who was raiding, top tier raiding, or something like that. So if someone just wanted to go all into PvP.
We're definitely going to have rewards that you achieve through the arena system and PvP, right? But we don't want to overly incentivize or make that a one-stop shop where you can just disassociate from the open world environment, because that depopulates the server and the interaction of those players from the rest of the community, and then they become their own clique of PvPers that are kind of separate from putting demand on the crafting system and the gathering system. And we want to still that there's a healthy connection between those players and the economy of the world, and not just make it a one-stop shop within the arena. So no, it's not going to be viable for equipping your character, but it will absolutely be capable of adding augmented power through your performance and success within the PvP systems.
But it's again, like, crafting is the main economic driver in this game, and the main way of itemizing this game. So we really don't want to have like a separate market just for PvPers.
Got it. All right. Very cool. Ishka asks, will our weapon auto attack have an actual use in combat? So, some games your simple wand shooter.
We don't have an
sword
auto
slice.
attack. We have our combo system, and that kind of replaces what the auto attack is. And that is a thing that you can spec into, and you can spec into weapon abilities that change what combinations you have available to you based on the weapon that you've got.
And it acts similar in the sense of, the core loop of what an auto attack is, so to speak, where typically your other skills have a cooldown period, they have a rotation or whatever. Our combo system is a repeatable, skill effect that you can continually attack with, but it's a little bit more involved than what a traditional auto attack is, right? And it has components from an advancement standpoint when it comes to the types of procs that your weapon can have during that combo system. It's not going to have the quick time event that you guys saw early on at PAX and gave great feedback on, but it is going to have development with regards to the power of the weapon, the type of weapon you're using, the additional proc effects that you can skill into. Those types of things are going to make it a little bit more complex of a system.
Gotcha. All right, Damocles asks, you've mentioned that there will be open world battlegrounds. Do open world dungeons count as open world battlegrounds?
No. When I say open world, and I know that obviously terminology can vary between players and their experiences, but when I say open world battlegrounds, what I mean is, our objective system that was kind of demonstrated to our PI members in the Castle Siege system is the ability for an event to take place in the open world where players can go there and participate. And in that event will be spawned objectives and spawned rule sets that players will be able to utilize to have victory or failure. So that's what I kind of mean by open world battlegrounds.
Yeah, those are like specific events in the world, right? They're kind of like an open world battleground, where it is a sequence of events that happens in the world.
Yeah.
Whereas an open world dungeon is more like a contested dungeon. There are battles that can happen there. Certainly, guilds will, I'm sure, fight over bosses. That is a thing that also happens, but it's not prescribed and it's not an event that takes place
with a specific rule set.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Horrendous asks, if I have a camel or goat cosmetic, will I need something other than a horse to place it on? So I think this is specifically for caravans that they're asking.
I'm sorry, if I have
If you have a camel or goat cosmetic, will I need something other than a horse to place it on?
So we have 3 tiers, kind of discussed this in the past, 3 tiers of our mounts that are available, and cosmetic skins apply to different tiers per se. So
it's not the type.
Exactly.
It's the
tier. So horses will exist as a creature within all 3 tiers, actually. There's going to be legendary horses like a Pegasi in the royal tier, and a secondary horse that's going to be probably some type of Clydesdale, and then a more like gelding horse in the first tier. But
you get Stumpy. He's a little pony.
Exactly. As long as you have the appropriate tier for the cosmetic skin, you'll be able to apply it to that tier.
Yeah. All right. Rock asks, can players cause natural disasters through summoning rituals or special items? So, like, we know that there will be natural disasters that happen, as parts of events or weather system, but can players cause them maybe through actions that they take?
It's more like, let's say a public event happens and it is resolved in a negative fashion. There might be a natural disaster that results as a result of that, but it won't be like players directing those.
I don't have a scroll of hurricane
Right.
that summons a hurricane.
So indirectly, players do, but not a direct cause and effect.
Gotcha. All right. Lord Ashbourne asks, will mages be able to specialize in a certain element? For example, using straight flame and being a flame mage, or using only frost skills and being a frost mage?
That's kind of the goal. Like there are definitely places where I could take a large majority of my skills to be fire based, right? I probably wouldn't say that you want to do that like exclusively. You will probably want other supporting skills.
There might be scenarios, or absolutely, you want supporting skills, but there would be scenarios where, from an energy descriptor standpoint, you would want to focus on bringing on, speccing into skills that are a particular energy type, because when you apply certain equipment augments through the stone system or something else, you might be able to increase the potency of a particular energy type, and so for that reason, it could be beneficial for you to
really focus.
But there's a downside to that, because effectively people can also put resistances against certain energy type, and if you're a major player, let's say in the game, or fire is a predominant skill set within your server, so to speak, a lot of players might spec into the fire resistances, in which case you'd be on a creek without a paddle.
You're gonna have some fun respec.
Right.
That's all we'll say. All right. Wololo asks, will there be evade frames, iframes on dodge?
We're still playing around with this. It's looking more and more likely, but we haven't finalized it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's a safe bet with regards to how we're approaching the hybrid combat, that not only are you going to have true evasion skills that apply to more action-oriented skills that are coming your way, but you'll also have, iframe type skill that would apply perhaps to a tab targetable skill coming your way, right? So I think you're going to have a healthy balance of both with it when it comes to skills that you can spec into, and yeah.
All right. Private asks, with the PvE revolving around questing, do you have any plans to prevent it from taking away the sandbox elements from the game? So making sure that the main story quests or quests aren't taking away from players building their own things.
I mean, it's built around the idea of it being a sandbox, right? The quests aren't built sort of in the sort of traditional, linear mode that other MMOs have done. It's meant to be a modular sort of narrative. So it kind of builds itself based around the choices the players make and where those players have made those choices. So it should hopefully reinforce that idea of a sandbox rather than take away from it.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about questing, we talk about the experiences that players will have in the game. All of it boils down to the decisions of the community, so to speak. Really, the overarching quest line even also accommodates the way that the world gets developed and the decisions that the players make.
Yeah, because you may see certain elements based on what players have built up. You may see a quest line that never existed somewhere else.
And more so also, we also allow for our quest system to interact with the direct building of freeholds and businesses or, professions players make that will spawn ancillary quests that they can participate in.
All right. Rostek also asks, will the adaptive AI be used on all the mobs so they become more challenging and fun, or will it just be for dungeon and raid bosses?
Adaptive AI.
I mean, the goal is to keep things as adaptive as possible while also retaining like a sense of character to those things. We definitely will leverage it a lot more on the bosses because those are kind of the big moments in the game, and those are the places where the most rewards are kind of available for, and that's kind of one of the directions that we wanted to do, where we don't have the sense of something being on farm because it can change from encounter to encounter. But we will see some of that for the lesser mobs.
And I was just going to say, with regards to how our behavior trees are going to be designed, right? They're compartmentalized into different attachments of a particular NPC. What it can utilize, what's in its repertoire of responses, and I think that's going to scale based on the elite level of the NPC. Right? You may have the grunt that's going to have the most minimal type of behavior tree possible, whereas you would have then a group leader and eventually an elite mob and then a dungeon boss and then a world boss. Each of those at every step you're adding additional components to their behavior tree that represent that type of adaptive AI. Sorry.
No.
I was mic drop.
All right. I was just looking at the time because I was like, we're 30 minutes over and I've
we're
still
gonna
got
end
so
up
many
at
questions.
2 hours. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. All right. I'll try to jump around a little and see if we can get to more of the questions that are towards the end here. Let me go to Ravuda. We'll start from the bottom now. Who asks, are class-specific utility skills a strict requirement to unlock certain content? For example, the mage dispelling a dungeon door or the ranger revealing tracks? Or are there other ways around it?
Yes.
So, are there certain things that are locked to? You're going to need to have a mage
almost
with
certainly
you?
will never be a one-way solution for any given problem. It may be the easiest way to solve an encounter or an environmental obstacle, but it by no means will be the only way to solve that.
Okay. All right. Shadowvan asks, due to limited fast travel, can crafting stations be mobilized/moved, and can they be placed anywhere in the world or only in specific locations?
Depends on the crafting station. There are going to be different tiers of crafting stations that represent, the quality of item you're looking to create within that specific profession. There's going to be crafting stations that can be utilized by players within their freeholds, and then crafting stations that are resigned only to the development of particular nodes within particular area at certain stages.
With a particular building.
Right, exactly. So, there's a wide variety of those things to kind of make it a more dynamic experience and kind of something that caveats how players decide to build the world.
What the value of those things are.
Exactly.
All right. Cambiguous asks, will there be armor for specific crafting and gathering professions? So this is my fishing
There will
overalls.
likely be that.
Yes,
These are my mining
there will
pants.
almost certainly be that. This is something that provides an additional layer of expertise and devotion to that particular profession from the players who would spend the additional time necessary to achieve those things, and we obviously want that type of progression available to those types of players.
All right. I think I'm going to try to pull maybe 3 more questions off this list and give you guys back some time in the day. Since I know it's already, I know we're not going to get a chance to go through all of these today. Thank you guys for submitting your questions. You gave us so many this time. I know, it's hungry time. All right, I'm going to pick 3 more randomly. Let's go. We're going to pick... Let's go with Corbier, who asks, what kinds of tools will we have to manage our friends lists, such as organization, favoriting people? Can I be invisible to my friends and invisible to other people? So I know we've talked about guild organization tools, but this is more like my friends list.
Friends list,
Tools,
I would say that we're kind of taking a little bit of a standard approach to the friends list. We're definitely going above and beyond with regards to the guild management system and stuff like that, but I don't know how much further you can go into the friends list kind of
Yeah,
situation.
it'll be pretty standard about
Yeah.
what you'd expect from like the Steam friends list or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, sure. There's going to be a way in invis mode and those types of things, but
Munstervan asks, regarding the PvP flagging system, are players able to repeatedly attack non-combatants until they reach low health, but not kill them, and gain no corruption for doing so? Because presumably the corruption happens upon you actually killing someone. So can I just sit there and poke a newbie until they don't die, and then let a mob take the last hit and go, ha ha, and not be corrupt?
Yeah, there's definitely risk associated with that, obviously, because being a higher level character, there's a potential to easily kill a lower level character, and there is added detriment for doing so. So you're not only is it risky that you might actually gain the corruption, but if you were to kill them, you would gain significantly more corruption because they're much lower level.
The delta on that is.
Yeah, exactly. So with regard to how the flagging system actually works, no, you won't gain corruption just by attacking another player. You will flag for PvP. Can you attack another player while they're engaged with a monster or a boss? Yes, you could, but again, that's added risk because you can't necessarily time perfectly, the damage or understand even the health of the player unless you were in their party. You cannot see an opponent's health as well. So that's another component that, adds risk to that type of action. But yeah.
Would you be able to see their health percentage, but maybe not their health number?
Nope.
Not at all.
No.
Not anymore.
What happens with regards to seeing another player's health is, their nameplate will deteriorate. It'll give you an indication of like, hey, they've taken damage, they're significantly injured, but you're not going to get a percentage. You're not going to get an exact bar value unless you're in their party or in their raid. Then you can see their status.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and then we will pick one more out of here, and we will wrap it for today. So thank you guys all again for submitting your questions. So let's see here. Will guild halls have parlor games and other tavern-like systems? So they want to know if the big guild halls for your guild can also incorporate some of those fun games.
We're kind of no, because that kind of ties into the business system that we want to keep within that particular type of building type. And the guild hall really is something that's a separate, it's a benefit component of guild members. It grants them certain, accesses to services within the node that it's present in. But we're going to keep the tavern game system within the business associated buildings and make sure, because those are a major machine, a mechanic of those business types.
Yeah, we want guild people who are in a guild to not just necessarily be in their guild, right? We want them to socialize with other players too. So
you got to come out and party with the rest of us.
Yeah.
And have some fun. Play some tavern games with us.
I'm gonna run the best bar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No idea.
Is it going to be just barred and then the
Are you going to toss a coin to your bar?
Stop spoilering people.
Sorry.
Will it be in the Valley of Plenty?
It will be.
There will be
Just
several
toss a coin.
valleys of
Very
plenty.
good.
And I appear.
All right. Thank you guys all for joining us for another one of our monthly development update live streams. Just a couple of quick final reminders here. We had a creative director's letter that came out at the end of the year. So if you haven't had a chance to read that yet, it's got the map in it that we've been talking a little bit about today. So you can take a look in there. We also have the creation of the Dune Wing Falcon video that just got released yesterday. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, you can see how this creature came to life all the way.
It's
and
pretty
it's
rad.
flapping its lovely 4 wings all across Vera. And also we have a new dev discussion that'll be coming up in February. This one is going to be about your favorite and ideal classes. So this one is going to be a fun conversation about, your favorite stuff that you've ever played. And then we also have some fun Valentine's Day content as well. I think Maggie teased that a little bit earlier.
excited.
They're really adorable.
It's gonna be
Hope you guys like puns. All right, and I think we also have a monthly cosmetic swap over coming soon as well. So thank you guys again for joining us. We have had Jeff with us, we've had Steven with us, we also had Rye with us, and Ryan. I'm sorry,
UI
it goes
Rye.
by
UI Rye.
and Dave, and we had Bacon with us as well. So thank you to all of our guests and for you guys as well. We'll be posting the video for this up on YouTube later today, and we'll be highlighting it on Twitch. So go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. If you missed any part of the stream, take a look at that. Make sure you follow us on social. We're Ashes of Creation everywhere. Come join the discussion on Discord. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time. And without so much good time.
Are you not entertained?
We'll see you guys next
Bye,
time.
everybody.